Hi, we will change subject a little bit and talk. I'm really sad about that because I love forestry. I used to be with IKEA, so forestry is a big deal for me in my life. But now I'm with the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise, and even though I could talk about forestry all day long still, I'm here to discuss with you how digital product passport and market access goes together. And I'm so happy to be here. It's been a wonderful afternoon. It feels like looking into the future, and I've learned a lot. And I am 100% sure that the future EU economy is traceable and transparent. But the title of my contribution is Digital Product Passport in Perspective of Market Access. And it would be easy for me to say that companies who achieve this illustrious traceability and proceed to share data transparently, the first mover, if you will automatically get an advantage. However, I'm not sure that's necessarily true. And the last thing I want after such an inspiring day is to be a downer, and I promise I won't be. However, going forward, there are a few things I want you to remember, not top of mind, but at your core, because I still want your mind to be very, very free, but at your core, there are a few things that we all need to remember. And there is that much of digital product passport will be regulations demanding the implementation from all companies. I believe this is a good thing, but to make sure that companies that really try their best do get market access, there are a few things we need to remember. And the first thing is think small first. It's very, very important. 99% of EU companies are micro and small enterprises, meaning that they employ less than 49 persons. Most of them are micro enterprises, employing maybe one or just themselves in their company. And they actually employ 48% of all European citizens in private employment. So it's very, very important for our economy. And if a digital product passport is a requirement for market access, it must be designed for these companies, or they will go out of business. And that would be a great tragedy for them, but an even greater tragedy for the European economy and for us. So we need to think small first. Any product passport created in such a way that these SMEs need to hire extra staff or buy expensive consultants to comply is basically a failure. Think small first. There are ways to do it. I'm sure about it. The second thing is that it's more about the what than the how. In my opinion, we often spend too much time discussing technological solutions. I have seen dozens of demonstrations from truly inspiring tech consultants with ingenious solutions for how to transfer and store data. I'm not worried. There are smart people out there. Some of them are in the room with us right now, and we will solve the how. But when I ask these very smart people where the actual data will come from, that's out of their hands. The companies need to collect the data themselves. There's no way around it. And data is expensive. I will echo Robin from TMF here. We need to remember that data is so expensive that we can only ever ask for what we absolutely need to know. We can never have data that is good to have. And this is quite painful sometimes because it's so fun to know things. It feels so good to just, the feeling, especially from the research community. I have a PhD from a long time ago, and I know the urge to, if I just have this data, maybe I could do good stuff. But when we are talking about imposing legal requirements on companies, including these small guys, we can't afford that. It needs to be on a need-to-know basis and never good to have, at least not in the beginning. So before adding any single data point, there are a few questions one might ask oneself. First, who will use the data? Is this for the recycler? Is this for the customer? Is this for an authority? But there need to be a person or an entity that really, really need the information. So we need to be 100% sure about the who. And then we also need to be sure about how the data should be used. because, for example, we already have a lot of data for dangerous chemicals in electrical equipment. It's in a database called the SKIP database, and it's meant to be used by the recyclers. But the data stored in the SKIP database doesn't match with the way the recycling is done. It's more or less, if you should use that data, you need to, as a recycler, pick up a coffee brewer, look at that and say, I wonder if there are dangerous chemicals in this one. And then you go into the database and you look up the coffee brewer and say, nope, okay, then I put it on this heap. And then you take the toaster, and then you take the refrigerator. And we all know that that's not how large-scale recycling is working. So we also need to make sure that even if we have a WHO, that the way the data is stored, that it can be used by the intended receiver. For a consumer, for example, it's no use if the data is that the consumer might be interested in is there, but not possible to understand for the customer, for example. We also need to consider if all companies have the information available. And with all, I mean all, also the small ones. And if so, do they have it in the right format? I really enjoyed the example with the Mickey stroller, where a lot of base information is in Chinese. It's probably a pretty easy to solve problem, but there are many formats of data out there that is not necessarily compatible. Maybe you have batch data, maybe you have product data, maybe you have weight data, maybe you have unit data. So we need to make sure that the companies have the information we're asking for, preferably in the right format. And if they do not, we need to make sure that they can access the data. And we also need to do a cost-benefit analysis, because we really want to have everybody on board with this. And it's not impossible, not at all. It was very good, for example, that SwePass 2 addressed the ideas of reducing the reporting burden. I think we can have a lot of good ideas from projects like that. And it's not impossible to build a product passport. I strongly believe, as I said in the beginning, in a future that is traceable and transparent. But maybe we need to think smart. I do believe that slow and steady will win the race. I know that this is not the vision of legislators right now. They want to do it all at once. But what if we start building the infrastructure and ask companies to communicate the information they already communicate today in a digital format, in a product passport? That would also make them more enthusiastic about it. But because what if they could put certificates and user instructions in a digital product passport instead of sending papers all around? They will gain something, and at the same time they will start to use the digital product passport. And then we can continue with data we know that the companies already have. I think that the Accenture presentation of the smart label in the US was a very good example of this. I don't think that the companies went out there to hunt for data to a very large extent. They started with the data that they already have. And then we can gradually add new relevant data points. And I think we could, and of course also allowing companies to add more data points to add value. And I don't think it need to take 20, 30 years to achieve a very ambitious product passport. But by adding gradually new data points to product passport, we could secure that the information is relevant and available and of good quality. And we will also know when to stop, because at some point we need to stop. Full traceability is not a thing. It's like an absolute zero. So I believe that every data point should be carefully analyzed, making sure that the information requested can be accessed by all companies, not only by the big ones, and that it can be used efficiently by the intended recipient, be it a customer, authorities, or a recycler. And that's why I believe that the demonstrators you showed today are so important. The Trace for Value projects and the other really good pilots we've seen here today has the potential to take us from theory to practice and save us from implementing solutions that look good on paper but does not work in reality. very, very important and very, very encouraging to see the work you do. We really trust you to help create a product passport that facilitates market access for those deserving, and also keeping those non-deserving out of the European market. That is important as well. You're smart, and don't lose your vision. Keep your heads in the clouds and dare to think big, but keep your feet on the ground and don't lose touch with reality. In that way, I'm sure you will help our companies to save the world. And that sounds really, really pretentious, but it's actually what we need to do, because the world sort of needs saving. And saving the planet whilst making sure that good companies, big and small, are able to fulfill the traceability requirements and gain access to European markets, while rough operators unwilling to be transparent with their operations are kept at bay. That is a really good goal that we have together. And I'm pretty sure we can get there if we think both practical and visionary at the same time. Thank you very much.